Welcome, welcome, welcome once again. You guys already know it's your girl, Amara La Negra, and you're listening to Exactly Amara, a production of iHeart. Thank you guys for tuning in as usual, and don't forget to give us those 5 stars. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Today's show is going to be super fun because I already had him in the past as a guest, but today he's going to be co-hosting Exactly Amara with me. Arlene, first of all, how are you doing?
Amara, I am super excited about this topic. It's one that I know you've been wanting to talk about for a very long time. Today on the show, we are talking about masculinity in popular media. That, of course, covers so much ground, from masculinity in our culture, toxic masculinity in society, on social media. For today's topic, we have a very special guest. You may recognize his voice from a previous show. His name is Kelvin Davis. He's from Notoriously Dapper, and he is back to bring his insights for this very important topic. Kelvin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for having me again. I'm excited to be here.
So there's so many things, there's so many different points to discuss when it comes to exploring masculinity in popular media. When you hear the word masculinity, what exactly do you hear? What exactly do you envision or think of?
When I think of the word masculinity, I'm thinking of a man that knows who he is and a man that lives with his own purpose. I think the media and societal standards of masculinity could sometimes construe men, because you have one side of the standards saying that men need to be more vulnerable, men need to open up, men need to do this and that. And then you have another side that's saying, men aren't supposed to open up. They're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to be all these things that have this hard shell. So I think when a man can be both hard and soft
Right.
at the same time and really be, in tune with his purpose, to me, that's the definition of masculinity. I mean, you really can't get any better than that, than having the best of both worlds. Right.
And how does the portrayal of masculinity evolved over the years in popular media in your eyes?
I think some of the keys is definitely time, because, when you think back to like the 1910s and 20s and shit, like the definition of a man or masculinity is a lot different than what it is now in the modern day. Right. Like you have men from like back in the days, like the 1910s and 20s, that just because they dress nice, they were considered men. They could be wife beaters. They could be, obviously they were, more than likely racist during that time. So there was a lot of hatred in their heart. There was a lot of, negative attributes. But just because they dressed nice and they were a part of the community, they were considered like masculine and considered like a gentleman and stuff. But in this modern day and age, the way you dress doesn't make you a man.
You just hit a really interesting point to me, because I feel that we're in a generation, in an era where men now have evolved from their closet to ours, right? Doing certain outfits, certain looks that go into what now is known as unisex, right? So let's talk about the physical aspect, the wardrobe aspect of it, the visual aspect of it, where now, which you would have never seen this before, it's a popular, trendy thing to see men wearing nail polish. It's now a statement of art. Back in the days, there was an era where men used to somewhat wear, or I don't even think it's back in the days, certain cultures where men used to wear like the skirt. It's like the skirt pants, pant skirts. We see more of that happening. We see more men now becoming more open, even when it comes to colors. There was a time where certain colors defined, this is for women, this is for men, or this is for girls, this is for boys. Not anymore. Colors is just colors, and everybody can do the same thing. I think the same thing goes with the hair, clothes, hair, this, that. When you see the masculinity, does the way that you dress in your eyes, or the fashion statement of these days, does it affect the masculinity for the popular eye? Should it, or does it?
It shouldn't, but it does. I feel like in some societal standards, a lot of people would view a man that does those eclectic thing as not being masculine.
Okay.
But in my eyes, I've known plenty of men, including myself, that just because they wear bright colors or they get their nails done or because, they wear something that's considered feminine, to me, doesn't make them less of a man. But that's just my personal, opinion and my personal life experience. And I feel as though like the societal standard, has to change in some way. Because, if people do their history, heels were originally invented for men.
I mean, we did have our disco day, because I remember that was really trendy when men used to wear like those big platform shoes or whatever. And they weren't perceived as less masculine or less of a man because they were wearing these big ass heels that today you would barely ever see a man rocking these, platform disco shoes, whatever. That definitely hasn't evolved, but it was a thing back in the days. Here's something else that is interesting to me. As much as we have grown and visually been like, accept me as I am, there is certain media platforms that tend to reinforce the traditional masculinity. For example, obviously, when you see the news anchors, is there in your eyes certain media platforms that just reinforce the fact that, the masculinity should be portrayed in a certain way?
I feel like within Black culture, there's a lot of stigma around Black boys and Black men. They need to be a certain way and be a certain standard, right? And there's like this, there's a certain standard of what a Black man should be in Black culture.
Okay, talk
right?
about it. Latinos too. Let me tell you something. Because Latinos are also portrayed for the most part, and there's a stigma, the macho man, a machismo thing. So definitely it goes from one generation to the other when they're reinforcing that in order for you to be a man, un macho, masculino, whatever, you have to act a certain way or look a certain way or whatever. Emotionally, you can't be vulnerable or whatever. So not just for the Black people, but go ahead.
Yeah. So like within our cultures, it's like, it's hard for young Black boys, it's hard for young Black men to sometimes, if they're feeling different, if they feel like, they want to be a little vulnerable or they want to cry or, there's something happens and, they want to dress a little different. It's hard for them to come into their own when they're in their community, because within the Black and Latino culture, we are so strict about this is the way a man should act. This is the way a man should be. You need to wear your pants this way. You need to dress this way, talk this way. And, that can be detrimental to how, they grow up, especially when they leave that community and they go somewhere else. Like they go to a college or, they just go on like a field trip or they go somewhere else and they see that, other places are more accepting of who they are.
Now, let's also talk about the emotional aspect of it, because I feel that goes from one generation to the other. And I think that unconsciously, they don't realize how it does affect. We live in a world where when a man cries, you're seen as being soft. You're seen as being, weak. I think that being able to be emotionally available and vulnerable is actually, it showcases how strong you are. You're in control of your emotions. You are in tune with your emotions. And it's usually seen in such a negative light when it comes to men. Why do you think that is? Like, why is it not okay? And you do see that a lot in the Black community where it's like, stop crying, man up. Or even for girls, suck it up like a man or take it like, why does it have to be so hard and so, there's no gray area?
I think it has to go back to the way that the societal standard of men, the way men are viewed. I feel like, men mostly fight wars, right? Men mostly do all these hard and, tough things. So, there's always been this stigma attached where, don't cry. You don't do this. You don't do that, right? So, I mean, I remember as a kid, my dad telling me that it was okay for me to cry. And, as a Black dad, like that was rare to be heard of, especially in like the early 90s. Like that was rare to have a dad say, it's okay for you to cry. He probably had similar feelings, but were not able to express those feelings. So I think he wanted to make it okay for me to do so. And, I'm really not much of a crier. Okay. I'm not really much of like an emotional crier kind of guy. Now I react out of like, frustration. And sometimes I get like a little angry, but as far as like crying, it takes a lot for me to cry. And when I do, I usually cry in private because I don't like for people to see me cry.
Why does that happen? I'm a private crier as well.
Yeah.
I think that also, ladies, tell me if you feel me. I don't know, in my case, being raised by a single mother, immigrant mother, which has really, they have really high expectations for what they expect your future to be, because they're like, if I crossed, the desert for you to
Yeah.
get here, you better not cry over this little petty thing like you're about to die. So they have very high standards. It's always a man up, toughen up. Ponte dura, machito. You can't cry. Keep it up. And I am a private crier. It's like I'll cry in the shower to myself. Yo misma me aconsejo. I give myself advice, like, you're doing good. I try to encourage myself and talk, and it sucks that you have to do it privately. It sucks that you can't just be open and vulnerable. And I'm going to talk about it from even an entertainment side. I work on reality TV, keyword work. I will work on a reality TV show. And in many occasions, we touch certain topics that make me vulnerable. And I'm open enough to be emotional about it and cry and be like, yo, that really hurt my feelings, or that really made me feel some type of way. And they look at this weak bitch. Look at this, da 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 da. And I'm like, why are we in a society where when you're emotionally open like that, it's so perceived in such a negative way, instead of being like, damn, I can relate. I hate the fact that there's so many people that are stuck in a realm where they can't cry, they can't be vulnerable, and then we see so many people committing suicide, or stuck on drugs, or stuck on alcohol, or just trying to find an outlet. Have you ever felt in a space of like, damn, this is so unfair, like I have to come cry in a corner? Or maybe you did vent to someone publicly, maybe a family member, and then they judged you for it?
Yeah. I do feel like I have to cry privately because, I don't want people to see that side of me sometimes. And I know that's sad to say, because it's like, I'm this guy that's like, everybody should be vulnerable and do this and that. But I do live this double-edged sword where, in front of my daughters, sometimes when I want to cry, I'll wait until they go back home with their mom, or, I'll cry in private.
Why?
I don't know, because it's just like, I don't want them, to see me in that state, and maybe possibly, for some odd reason, see me as like being weaker
Soft?
than I am. Yeah, soft or weak,
No.
And that's sad to say, because it's like, I want my daughters to be like, daddy has emotions, daddy cries, and all this stuff.
Yes.
But I've only cried in front of my daughters once, and it was only like three little tears, and I wiped them up real quick and was like,
You are
get your shit back
lying.
together. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's crazy. But then at the same time, we expect them to feel open enough to trust us and talk to us and be like, it's okay
Yeah.
to cry. It's okay to do this, but you can't see me do it. But you can come to me and
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
unconsciously, you don't know how that is damaging. It's
For sure.
You know what? I think that my mom and everybody admires our relationship. It's a roller coaster because nada es perfecto. Nothing is perfect. But people that admire our relationship, I think the part of it was the fact that I saw her in so many vulnerable stages and she allowed me to see it. There's a lot of parents that they don't want their kids to see them cry. They don't want them to know that we're struggling. No, I want you to see I'm hurting. I'm human. Because then like that, you can connect with me. You can connect emotionally. The struggle, the pain, the sadness, the whatever it may be. Sometimes as a parent, I think it's important for your children to see the human side of you. Daddy is strong, but you know what? Daddy has emotions. He has feelings. Like, damn, I really hurt his feelings, or let me not do this. Like, if you can see your parent in such a not strict light and see them as a human, I think that is very important. And I'm glad that we touched that, because there's so many young parents out there, just people overall, that the way that we have to raise our children is different than the way that we were raised, because times have changed. Those things are important, and talking about the emotional part is important. Something I else want to talk about, because I know that you've been passionate about it before and you've spoken about it, is the physical aspect of what the world perceives as masculine. I know that men also have a lot of pressure that for the most part we don't hear, because we always hear about women talking about how insecure they feel about their body, how TV, social media, music videos, all of this makes women feel so insecure, as if we all have to go get surgery. My body's not perfect. Da, 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 da. It creates bulimia. It creates anorexia. It creates eating disorders. It creates so many other things. But we never talk about the men that go through this. So what is your perspective when it comes to men and that physical aspect of masculinity?
There's definitely a harder standard for men to reach when it comes to reaching that physical version of masculinity, because, we'll see these guys that have an extremely massive amount of muscle or like abs, all these things, right? And then that's what they portray as being masculine or being like, ferocious and, all these, masculine beauty, I would say, right? So it's like when you have a man that doesn't fit that standard, men do feel insecure, especially when, there's a whole media platform that dedicates their time to saying this is the way men should look. This is the way, men are supposed to look. And then you have the other aspect of, men should just be who they are, right? Body positivity is for everybody. It's for every size, every gender, every age, every race, right? I want to also talk about height because people feel as though like short men aren't men. I'm like, just because he's short doesn't mean he's not a man. God damn.
You know what? That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. We always see women saying, I want a tall man.
Exactly.
I want a... So what happens to all the short men? Mira, I never thought about that, but I'm glad that you're talking about it. And by the way, there's going to go out, this is going to be crazy or whatever. But then I saw on the Instagram, right? Ladies, they were doing like the survey or whatever about man's penis. And they were doing it based on height, with all due respect. And they actually saw that most of the shorter men actually had the larger penis. And you're one of those girls like, I need a man that has una mandarria, this big ass. Well, you know what? You might not want to discredit the short men because a lot of them be packing. So with that being said, a lot of the short men too, I feel like they feel the need of having to like fight. They're like really feisty. And they have this stigma like the shorter you are, the feistier you are, because they feel like they have to, I don't know, fight against the world for making fun of them because you're shorter.
Of course.
That is so unfair. Just because the man is tall doesn't make him any better.
Yeah. And now you have this like new version of BBLs where like men are getting their legs broken to be taller. And that to me is like fucking sad. I'm like, they really got dudes out here paying thousands of dollars to get their femurs broken in half to be 3 to 6 inches taller.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, to me, that's really crazy. Because
No. You can't say that that's really crazy because when you see the women out here full of surgery, you think that they look fine as hell. But anyways, get your boobs done, get stabbed inside so they can take the fat out, and then they turn you around and stick all the fat they took out of your stomach into your ass. Then you're laying there for
That's crazy too,
if you really look at that's crazy.
That's crazy. Like, I mean, that's crazy.
What we doing?
That's just crazy that like the whole societal standard has caused people to feel that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
it's like society has to be held accountable in some way.
They're not. But they're not. But if we lived in a world where there would be like, all of a sudden, it is illegal to get surgery anywhere, and everybody just had to be who they are.
Yeah.
Woo, baby. Let me tell you, it would be a tough world out here. Because a lot of the girls that you see out here looking all fine and crispy, by the way, she stretched out her eyes. She faked her eyebrows. Her nose is done. Her cheekbones are added. Her lips is not hers. Her jawline is really not hers. That wig that she got on, plus her tits is done. Her lipo's done. Her hips are not real. Her ass is fake. You know, when you really look at it, and then now we're also in a world where men do the same thing, which is also kind of giving equality and fairness, where the men are wearing lace fronts. For those that ain't got no hair, they're adding on these glued on hairlines. You know, they're getting the six packs done. Like, we live in a world where we're so fake, but we expect so much realness from each other.
That was good. Bars.
Bars. You know, we live in a world where we expect so much perfection from each other. We expect these perfect bodies, these perfect hairlines, these perfect skin, this, that, all this other crap. But we expect so much realness from each other. Like, be real to me. Be honest with me. Be loyal to me. Be all those things. But you're not even that to yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you know, if we really had to live in a world where we accepted everyone as they are, I don't know if, there was a time where things were like that, but it would be very hard to go back. It would be very hard to go back. And not to mention the fact that society, who needs to somewhat be blamed for it, has made so much money out of our insecurities.
For sure. Do you
Talk
think
about
that
it.
men are responsible for the way women feel about their body, or do you think it's other women? Because there's this online debate thing that says that men really prefer women more natural, and women and other women
Eso es
change their
mentira.
bodies to be in competition with other women. Do you think that's true, or?
He's lying. Eso es
Oh,
mentira. He's lying.
okay.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Yeah,
And
tell
you
me.
know, and you know why? I honestly think that what really messes up the mentality when it comes to the physical part is porn. I'm blaming it on porn.
Oh,
I'm blaming it on
shit.
porn.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna tell you why. When the porn that these boys grow up as men to watch, they're looking at these perfect bodies, right? The boobs don't even jiggle. Most of them, they're like all these perfect boobs, the waist, the skin, which, it's like they have makeup on. It's like a whole thing. I've been on a porno set. It's definitely not what you see in the movie. So there's like a whole, production behind this, and men create this mentality of this is what I want. This is what makes me hot. This is what I've seen. When you look out in the street, you're looking for the comfort of your mother, right? With the sexiness of the appeal of what you grew up watching that turned you on these porn videos and all this. So you're looking for this mix, and that mix, when you go out here to these streets, there's great women out here who are responsible, well-educated, financially stable, toda esta mierda, all these great things, morals, values, todo esto, but doesn't look like what you see or what makes you hot, whatever. So it just puts a really high standard for women to fit into this perfection. And then you have society that gives you Victoria's Secret models, that gives you photoshopped images of these women, all this other stuff. And I think the women, we naturally are competitive and we compete against each other. But between society and the men that we want you to want us. And you don't want us because we don't look this way. It makes it very hard. If you even look at the porn for the most part, you have some fit guys, but a lot of them are not even fit. They could be fat. You could be fat.
That's
you could
true.
be square. You could have no ass. You could have a little dingling. You could have anything, and we'll still take you.
That's true.
So
That's a fact.
It's very unfair. The standards are very uneven.
Yeah. Especially when you put it in that way. I didn't even think about the whole porn aspect of it and how young boys are growing up with this, with this ideal, body image of what a woman should be. And it's hard to shake that when you're like a 15-year-old boy and you viewed this amount of porn, and then you're like 20 and you're trying to get this girl, and you're like, wait, she doesn't look like the girl I saw when I was 15. Yeah, that's some fucked up stuff. Even sexually, women, a lot of them become insecure, because I've had this conversation before where they become insecure because they feel that they have to do what their men like, or what they've seen based on what they've watched. That's not even real, because if you were to be on a set, that's true,
and you see that there's 5 cameras, there's the hairstylist, the makeup, the this, the that, the assistant. There's a whole bunch of people making sure that this image gets created for your entertainment. It makes it unfair for women as well. So I'm glad that we reached this topic, because these are the things that people think about a lot of times, but don't have the guts to talk about publicly. And I love the fact that you are willing to be open, vulnerable, honest, transparent, maybe not with your kids, but you might want to work on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it.
But we need more people that are willing to be open and honest and just accept themselves for who they are and still work on themselves, because things are not perfect. It's a working process,
Of course.
Kelvin, I'm so glad to have you. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelvin Davis, and then you can find me on Facebook at Notoriously Dapper and NotoriouslyDapper.com. And, you can get my book wherever, books are sold. It's Notoriously Dapper.
That.
How to Be a Modern Gentleman with Manner, Style, and Body Confidence. You know what I'm saying? Strong.
I know that's right. And by the way, guys, listen, if there's anything you could take home with you today from today's conversation, in my eyes, it's just, before you go ahead and judge someone else, especially also, a man, before you go judge somebody else, check you first. You know what I'm saying? It's tough out here in this world for everybody. Everybody's going through their own struggles in different levels, in different ways. Stop being so damn judgmental about somebody's body, about the way that they should dress, about the way that they should act. Mind your own damn business. The same way that you don't like people to judge you, let other people be who they are. We were all born different, and that's what makes us us. And that combination is why we're in this world, to accept each other for who we are, whether a man is short, whether he's tall. And that's another thing. Ladies, if you feel that you have a lot of pressure, let's also think that men are also going through their own demons. They're also going through their own struggles with society, in their household, the way they were raised, at work, whatever it may be. Stop judging people for how tall they are, what they're wearing, this and that, where they live, what car they drive. Today you could have everything and tomorrow you could lose it. And vice versa. I've known a lot of men that didn't have nothing, and all it took was this one opportunity for his whole life to change, and you missed out on this good man because of this situation. So just be more open-minded and less judgmental. With that being said, guys, today's episode, I really, really enjoyed it. And if you didn't get an opportunity to, tell anybody about it, they can go ahead and watch it again on the YouTube channel. Just go to the search bar and write Exactly Amara. Thank you once again for being part of Exactly Amara. Follow me on Instagram at Amara La Negra ALN, Amara La Negra ALN. And remember that this has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. This is your girl Amara La Negra, and you just heard Exactly Amara.